Before we start this week's episode, a word from our sponsor, MFG.com.
Are you an engineer or designer looking for reliable and skilled manufacturers to bring your designs to life? MFG.com, the world's largest online manufacturing marketplace, connects you with over 10,000 suppliers across the globe. Browse the directory or submit a request for quote and receive an average of 4 quotes from U.S. suppliers. MFG provides access to a wide range of manufacturing capabilities, including precision machining, injection molding, and 3D printing, so you can find the right supplier for your specific project needs. Signing up for MFG.com is quick and free and gives you the ability to manufacture your engineering designs efficiently and effectively. So why wait? Sign up for MFG.com today and take your engineering and design projects to the next level. Again, visit MFG.com to sign up today.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Engineering Entrepreneur Podcast. This is episode 133, so we're getting up there in numbers. This is Scott Tercy, and I run CADdesignhelp.com as my main business, but I've got an e-commerce company I'm running now as well. Reward, send you a free PDF that vendors make, and you also the news and podcast episodes. Go ahead and subscribe to the show and leave tunes. That would be great. And if you have any info at CADdesignhelp.com. All right, our guest this week is Barry Coziahr. Did I say that right? Coziahr or Coziahr?
It's Coziahr. It rhymes with desire.
Coziahr. Okay. Our guest this week is Barry Coziahr. He's a serial entrepreneur and co-founder of Freetime.Solutions, which is a virtual personal agency that helps small businesses and one-man entrepreneurs and professionals build a powerhouse team of virtual assistants. So, Barry, I've got some experience with virtual assistants because, just a quick background on me, and I can turn it over to you. Basically, when I started this business, I did every little task imaginable. And what I realized is that my time is best spent, well, probably honestly just doing sales and trying to get more work, but also like the actual CAD work. So since then, I've hired people specifically that have the CAD skills to source work to them so that I can scale the business, but also other tasks that can be trained for somebody without too much, effort. Like, for example, editing this show and uploading this would take me an hour a week. But now I've trained a virtual assistant on my team for her to do that. And that's really opened up my time to do, what I would consider more important things in growing the business. So that's kind of my experience with it. I'll turn it over to you and let you fill us in about your background and the business that you run.
Yeah. So I'm in Freetime.Solutions, and I've been, I guess I've had a business now have my own business for about 20 years now. So I've worked with a lot of freelancers over the years. We worked with a lot of virtual assistants, and really love working with people. We got a big, huge team, I guess, between our various businesses. We got about 80 people that work for us. We just really perfected finding the right people, putting them in place correctly. And so we decided to open a virtual assistant agency in 2020. Seemed like really good timing because people were going to be looking for inexpensive solutions to things, and everybody's working remotely from home, so it started to make a lot more sense to people to start to use remote personnel, which is basically what a virtual assistant is. And so we did it. We opened. I actually have two virtual assistant companies, Freetime.Solutions that you just mentioned, and then another one called Team Builders. That's all about basically helping people, helping people to free up time to get key things done, to expand their business. And that's basically who we are.
So I hired my VA through Upwork. What's different about your company, Freetime.Solutions?
Good. Yeah. So the cost is very similar, maybe even less actually, because we're just, we're really good at picking great people, and sometimes they undervalue themselves, or they're coming up in the market or whatever. So the cost is great you're getting a great person. But then in addition to that, we've eliminated a lot of the guesswork, because when you're hiring, there's a whole thing, in a business or organization, they usually have like an HR department. And so an HR department's job is to get involved with recruitment and selecting the proper candidates and all the various things that they might do, looking into the person, testing them, doing, various things that would result in kind of making your odds better that you're going to get a good person, right? So we do that.
And I had to fire and rehire a couple of people, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. But yeah, I can see the advantage there because you kind of done some of the legwork there in advance to get people that more likely going to be reliable.
That's right. You're still getting inexpensive, but you're getting high quality personnel. Plus, we actually do another thing on it, which we continue to act as that HR department, meeting with our clients weekly, quick little meeting, make sure everything's going okay with their virtual assistants, helping them to onboard them fully or get tasks communicated if they're having any issues with their coaching the employee, the VA, who's now, working directly with this person and providing processes that like you mentioned, this whole podcast thing, right? Well, we have SOPs on podcasts, for example, standard operating procedures that are already written up. So we can,
okay.
Yeah. So we can quickly,
the thing about that is it's going to depend, you can't write it super specifically because I use a service called Libsyn, but somebody else might use a different service. And so there's going to have to be a lot of them written or kind of have to be written in general terms to really apply to a lot of different, service providers.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, yeah. And we always adapt them right as needed. I mean, that's part of the thing of providing a good SOP for sure. You're right. You can't just do cookie cutter. But then the other thing is we're really focusing heavily on experience in the area, but also soft skills. Does the person have the right IQ, right? Is their IQ high enough to where they're going to quickly be they're going to be engaged in solving problems? Do they have high enough aptitude where they can duplicate instructions or things that they might have to study quickly so they can put them into use, right?
Do you actually give them an IQ test to see if they wow, okay, that's interesting. And IQ tests have been, generally the kind of controversial in terms of they really going to prove how good someone is in the job. Do you think they actually can't be right? One's at a certain threshold, they're over that.
Yeah, I think it's pretty wild because I could talk a lot about testing in general. We do 3 different tests in addition to verbal tests, which would be 4, and then research into their background, and sometimes even a 5th test where we do a test task to see how they actually perform, right? So testing is if you do an IQ test all by itself, you're basically measuring problem-solving skills, but you're not really measuring how responsible the person is or how good a communicator they are or how good they are at following instructions. There's a lot of other things you're missing by just doing an IQ test. So you have to do we have 3 tests minimum that we do in addition to a verbal evaluation that we do of the person. And sometimes, like I said, a trial task to see how they're good at actually doing the work, right? Sometimes we have other tests on specific jobs, right? So testing's this whole big thing that, you can't just do a brush off and say, well, they had a high IQ, because who cares? So did, there are a lot of crazy people and incompetent people that are also very smart and have great IQs. It does not tell you everything by a long shot about the person.
All right, cool. So tell us more about the 80-20 rule. I know what that is, but I know you're a big believer in the 80-20 rule.
Yeah. And so I'm releasing a book in October called The 80-20 Virtual Assistant. And there's a number of books in the subject that are really good. I'd recommend to your audience 80-20 Principle by Richard Koch and the 80-20 Sales and Marketing by Perry Marshall. And there's many others that you could check out, that fit into the. But for those of the audience that don't know, the 80-20 principle is basically the idea that about 80% of the results come from 20% of the causes. And and that translates. It's not always 80-20, obviously. Sometimes it's 95-10, sometimes it's 75-35, sometimes it's 99-1, right? It really depends. But basically the general rule of thumb is this idea that was a famous horticulturalist and economic guy, there was an Italian guy, discovered, by looking at his garden and looking at the people of his nation, he discovered a couple things. He found that like 80% of the produce from his garden was produced by 20% of the plants. And then when we looked at his country, he found that 80% of the property was owned by 20% of the population. And so it kind of goes, you find in companies that about 80% of the work is done by 20% of the people. You can look at it in the culture as far as income and such, right? All sorts of different things translate into 80-20 rule. It's even fractional, because I think you probably got some math, people are interested in math in your audience, right? But like it's even fractional, where like if you look at highways, 80% of the traffic out there is on 20% of the highways. And then if you look at that 20%, 80% of that traffic is on 20% of that. So it's actually fractional. So we take a look at like the 80-20 principle, like as it relates to when I'm talking to my clients, I'm looking at there's a couple of things how you want to utilize a virtual assistant. One is you either want to take things off your plate that are not the key money-making activities, but things that do have to get done, and maybe even things you're not really particularly good at that someone else could help you with. Like some good examples are handling all the back-end stuff regarding your podcast. Or for me, it would be bookkeeping and accounting. I'm not the guy, right? It's not how I should be spending my time. For others, there's other things that you take those things off their plate so that they can focus on the key things that they're really good at. If they're focusing on that, their time is focusing on that, then, wow, you're away. If the other part of the 80-20, the way you could look at it is, what are the key things in your business that really elevate it? And can you get support that would help you with those things? Like I found that, I like doing a lot of public speaking. I like educating people. So I have a team that basically helps find me events to talk to. I have a virtual assistant, and we do that for other clients because it's a key element that gets me, that helps me with the key growth components of my business. So you could apply.
Yeah, so I got a good example there too for me. So what I've noticed is, especially, so when I first started, I was just doing freelance CAD, and when that gets slow, like it's kind of slow right now, I don't have a lot of client work. I started creating products that I could 3D print because I have 3D printers, and start selling online. And I realized that is the best use of my free time, because every new product I create is another revenue source that's very passive. I just push a button on the machine. Once the file is built, that's the work. I push a button and the machine makes it, and it's pretty much done. And so I've incentivized some of my workers that do CAD. I said, listen, I'll pay you a royalty every time it sells. And some of these guys have made very good money on some of the recurring revenue of these products that I make. And so that's, like you're talking about like 80 to 80-20 rule. It's, well, like 80% of this revenue, at least on that side of it, is coming from just, 20% of these products I have online. I have like 100 products, but 20% of them are doing 80%. So every time I can go put a new product out there, it might fall into that 20, it might fall on the 80% side where it's not doing that much, but it also might fall into the 20% where it does a ton. Either way, it's an increase in revenue. So it's much better to have these guys and me working on these kind of things, and me, doing non-revenue generating activities like editing podcasts.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's brilliant. So that's like, they're taking advantage of your strength 80-20 wise, which is organizing and distributing, those items, and their strength is they don't necessarily want to deal with all that, but they do want to get involved, take their design time. So that's their strength. So you're working together and you're benefiting each other from, the relationship. Totally 80-20, totally. If you read Richard Koch's book, you'll see it's like he talks about 80-20 teamwork. And that's why virtual assistants, like, the greatest time-saving tool in the world is a great person who can help you, right? And, and anyway, there's all sorts of interesting stuff about the virtual assistant world and 80/20 that makes this fit all together. About 80% of our happiness and achievement takes place about 20% of our time. So if you take a look at that, you can expand those peak times where you're working on the stuff that really makes you happy, right? That really results in achievement. And that's what growing a big organization is all about. People who have a large organization and build it up just by, maybe they start with one virtual assistant, right? And that's why I started. I had one person that was helping me way back when. And then I built it then I added another one, and we just keep building on the team. And by applying these principles, and I end up being able to have more free time for the stuff that I think for other things are also important to me, but I still have this big growing business that is helping me reach my goals. So it's great. I mean, it applies to alliances and people that you relate to. So a virtual assistant can help you with follow-up work and help you to stay connected to people, help you to nurture relationships. It's pretty endless. No, yeah. So I'll show one other thing with you, right?
Go ahead.
So basically, Richard Koch talks about some of the top low value and top high value uses of your time, right? He talks about the low value stuff is things other people want you to do, right? These are things you can give to a virtual assistant, right? Things you're not usually good at doing. You can, again, give that to a VA. Things you don't enjoy doing. These are things you can give to a virtual assistant. Things that already have taken twice as long as originally expected. You can either skip it or give it to a VA. Answering the telephone, cold calling. These are like low value uses of time. And what the VA can help you with is the high value uses of your time. Things that advance your overall purpose in life. You can delegate as much, as possible, and the rest, you can give to a VA. Things you've always wanted to do, you use a VA to free up your time. Innovative things, right? Innovations and things that you try that might be big things if you had a chance to do work on them. He's got much more in his book, but again, I really think that a VA can help you to maximize things in your life, and it just fits really well in with this 80/20 principle.
And one last thing I wanted to talk about was the AI. Like, how do you see AI affecting the virtual assistant world? Because, for example, like I would have some virtual assistants write blog posts, but now I can literally just go to ChatGPT and just have that write it for me in like 2 seconds. And so it's like one less task. I mean, I can have them do ChatGPT as well, but it's like that's kind of like taking some tasks away from what they're doing.
Sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, the nice thing is like, well, there's a lot of stuff that virtual assistants are sort of in that same space as ChatGPT. They're inexpensive solutions. So yeah, I mean, I don't have anything I've run into yet that I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm sure I will. I'm sure, AI is going to help, take over tasks here, there, you still need people here and there to get things done. So, but, it's like I'm using it. I wrote some articles or used ChatGPT to do some research on an article. And then I went through and made a bunch of notes using video. So I really made it my own and made sure to agree with my philosophy. And I took a little bit of time just to go through it. And then I gave the video to my virtual assistant so they could edit it for me. And then they gave it back to me, and I added a couple of other things. Boom, I got a great article that I'm proud of, that I didn't just lean on AI to produce an article for me, because you still have to get, I think I view ChatGPT the same way I view a virtual assistant. Just it's a really good assistant. It's not going to take over any, it's like, again, it's an 80/20 thing. It fits in. Where it fits in great, it's great.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll get towards wrapping up. I know you did want to mention that you, for the audience here, you have an ebook giveaway. Can you talk about that briefly?
Yeah, so it's basically I've got this Freetime.Solutions. We've got a little ebook. It's called 249 Things That a Virtual Assistant Can Do for You. And it goes over, gives you a big, long list of all the different types of things. It's really kind of, I think it would help you to come up with ideas on how, where what we've said kind of fits in with what you do. So you can download it, go through the book. If you want to reach me, you can reach me through the same place. It's freetime.solutions/downloads. And I think, Scott, I don't know if you can share the link in your show notes. That'd be awesome. And I also give
I will put that in there. So you answered the final question, which is how to get in contact with you. But I guess the last question then will be, what's your number one tip and takeaway from our call today?
Take the time to train people and write up your, turn over things to people, get some help, as soon as you can so that so you're not just stuck. I know it seems easier to just do it yourself sometimes, but really take that time to turn it over, write it up, lay out a process, give it to somebody else, and free it up for something else you should be doing. And just expand personally. That's my number one tip. And if you want help with that, reach out to me. Well, I'll make sure you got my email address too. It's Barry at teambuilders.agency.
All right, cool.
Awesome.
Well, that was a great call, and we'll catch everybody next time on the podcast.